Hello and welcome to the Managing Uncertainty podcast. This is Bryan Strawser, Principal and Chief Executive here at Bryghtpath. And in episode 209, I want to talk briefly about a simple message a friend of mine used to say all the time. And that is, make yourself important. As resilience professionals in business continuity, crisis management, and crisis communications, one of the things that I hear a lot as a consultant from people working in this space, even leaders in this space that are running large complex programs, I often hear that they don't feel that the organization takes them seriously. And I push back on that and start by saying, first, you have to make yourself important. You have to make yourself important. The program that you lead is critical to your organization, more so now than it ever has been in the past. COVID taught executives and boards that they need more from their resilience function. They looked for more from their resilience function. And in a lot of cases, they didn't get it. I want to give you an example of this. Several years ago, I was in an after-action review with one of our clients at the time. This is 8 or 9 years ago. And the program, which was struggling, had a business continuity plan activation. It wasn't a big deal in terms of like critical impact to the organization. But one of their principal contact centers had to relocate due to a building problem, which was a big deal at the time, but it wasn't like something that would bring the organization down. And there were problems with this process. So I sat in the after action on behalf of our client to provide my perspective and listen to the lessons learned. And so here is a director of a business continuity program leading this conversation, except they weren't leading the conversation. The business was running the conversation, and not well. And we never got to the list of what went well and what didn't go well. We never got to a list of action items that needed to be undertaken in order to improve the program, improve the plan, improve this organization's ability to withstand a future more serious incident. Because the resilience leader didn't lead the conversation. They didn't make themselves important. They didn't come prepared to this great opportunity to establish themselves, to lead through this conversation. And so whenever I hear this issue of, well, the business doesn't take us seriously and the business doesn't, we're viewed as a nuisance rather than somebody that adds value to the organization, and people being okay with that because they justify it by saying, well, we don't generate revenue. Okay, all that's bullshit. Yes, you don't generate revenue. Yes, we're a cost center. Yes, I get all of that. You fail. Your leaders don't listen to you because you don't make yourself important. You don't make your program important. And so if you take nothing else away from this conversation, this field, this industry starts with each of us thinking about our roles as something that is important, that is critical to the organization. And we start mentally putting ourselves in that space every day before we go in and start to do the important work that we're each charged with. The guy that taught this lesson to me, his name was Hardin. We lost Josh 13 years ago this past week to neuroendocrine tumor cancer. It was a surprise. He was in his 30s, and he was one of the best leaders and friends that I ever worked with. And Josh always had two sayings that he brought all the time. One was, make yourself important. And the corollary to that is that you can't wait for your ticket to the dance. You just have to show up. And I've never forgotten those two lessons that Josh taught me. And I hope they resonate with you as a resilience professional as well. That's it for this edition of the Managing Uncertainty podcast. We'll be back next week with another new episode. Be well.